Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's Workshop. So I got a quick video here. I got some inspiration because I've got this wonderful pasta machine, or I guess actually be a clay flattening machine by Sculpey, and it actually came from my daughter. She got it from my mom and she gave it to me. So I've got some clay that's kind of hard, and I've got it in like a purple and a pink color. Now, if you haven't already seen it, in a previous video, I made shoes from polymer clay. So I figure if I made shoes from polymer clay, why not make a few purses? So I'm running this clay through the pasta machine to flatten it out to kind of get a uniform thickness, because I realized that even though I roll things out with my roller, sometimes I roll things out unevenly, and this really helps you so that the clay will be the same thickness all the way through. Now you can see me here in this frame trimming off the excess, and I'm creating my little purses on, they're just like tiles, just ceramic tiles that I got from one of my home stores, and I'm making more than one at a time. I'm really kind of playing around with the concept to see what type of shapes I can get, and I'm just trimming it to try to start with pretty uniform or even pieces so that when I begin to shape them, everything will be relatively around the same size. And you know, dolls, I'm not really big on doing same, but I do want them to be in a similar size range. And just when I thought I had decided on the size, I realized I wanted to make a couple of them a little bit smaller, just in case one of the ladies coming through town wanted to buy one for their little girl. Now, these are just some random broken pieces of chain off of some old discarded costume jewelry that I had, and I'm going to bake them right into the clay so they can be the handles for the tiny purses. Now, you always want to find and use the finest and smallest chains possible. Now, I did all square and rectangular shapes, but they would be definitely cute as circles or triangles. I'm just playing with the concept. But I do the same process, and I press the chain right into the body of the clay and then fold it over on top of the chain. I do gently pat the clay down to make sure the chain is completely enclosed in the clay on both sides with both pieces. Now here I'm using my craft blade to press into the clay to make these little clay bags mimic or look like they're made of fabric. Now here I'm going to do a little slight variation to the style. Now most of the ones I made, I just folded them over with one piece of clay, but with this one, I'm using an additional piece of clay to create what looks like a flap. Again, these are non-opening solid clay bags, so the flap adds interest and dimension. And again, I'm pressing in with my craft knife, just trying to create the impression of gathers, ruching, or wrinkles in the clay to make it look like fabric. Now here I've changed from my craft knife to a little tiny spooning tool that I normally use for my dolls, but it's helping me give those nice wrinkles and impressions of ruching on the sides, around the back, and around that little flap. And now I've changed over to a little silicone tool to kind of help me define those little indentions that I made to make them a little softer and not so sharp. Now this part is something you can work on as long or as little as you want, but just make sure you're satisfied when you're done. Now here's another quick glance at the simple style purse, and then I want to show you again how to press in the chain so you'll be clear on how to put it in. Now here's a piece of the clay that I've rolled out, making this piece a little bit bigger, and I'm laying the chain right on top of the flat piece of clay, and then I put it on the other side. And after I put it on the other side, I kind of press it into the clay so it'll be embedded into the soft clay, and then I roll up the other piece and smash it right down on top of the chain as well. Now I'm doing a little bit of shaping, but keep in mind I'm working on more than one purse at a time, so the tile isn't necessary, but it helps me when I'm working on multiple items. So using a tile is just my preference, because I really feel like when you're making something like this, you can make it with so many variations, and each attempt you get a little bit better. So have fun with this. Don't do one, but or maybe you would prefer to do just one perfect one, but I like to do a variety and just kind of play with it to see how many different looks I can come up with. But you see I've done the exact same thing, just patting it down Now here I'm just shaping it a little bit more, trying to add a little bit more distinction to the shape. And although I'm using my blade, the silicone tool would be better. Now here I just want to show you again how simple this is. Now this one is kind of a flat shape. It's literally flat down to the tile. But I just want to show you how you could do something really simple to add a little variety to the selection. And although I said it before, it bears mentioning again. Use your silicone tool rather than your blade. It's much safer and it leaves softer lines. But just stand up your little clay purse and press it down to add a little dip to make it look as though there are gathers at the top of your little bag. So now you have the general concept of how I made these clay purses. So dolls, there is no right or wrong way to do this. Play with it as much or as little as you want to come up with the shapes and styles that you like. So with clay, you can mimic all types of materials. I was kind of imagining a really soft kid leather, but you can pretend that it's fabric, things to create texture on the surface of the bag. Now dolls, I just happened to use the pink and purple colored clay because I thought it would be universally appealing to the dolls I create and the outfits that I'm making for them so the purses wouldn't stand out too much. So at this point, I'm just playing around with the little bags, thinking about all the different ways I'm going to embellish them. So go ahead, try different shapes, different colored clays, different textures, even different chains and handles. But just make sure that the metal you use for your chains is actually metal. You don't want it to be plastic or fabric because when you bake them, things like that will burn and melt and you don't want any of those type of problems. So I'm finally done with all my little clay purses. So let me go ahead and put them in the oven. Now it's time for the fun part. You know, dolls, I always love embellishing or adding details to things. So I used little pieces of lace and ribbon and portions of lace. And I had some of my little nail art studs. And I did all types of little things. And again, these things are totally up to you. There is no right or wrong way. Purses and handbags since the beginning of fashion have been made all types of different ways. So have fun with this. Now let me gather together all my tiny creations and see how they all look together. Now be patient with yourself if this is the first time you've done this, and keep in mind when things are tiny like this, they don't all have to be perfect as long as they look nice collectively. Use the best looking ones up front and use the others in the back as fillers. I can't wait to put all these things together in the dress shop dollhouse showroom. But right in the middle of me doing this, I got another idea. So dolls, sometime when I get these sudden ideas when I'm already done with a project, it's usually too many steps and too many things to do to bring the idea to completion. But in this instance, that wasn't the case. All I need to do is change the clay color to black. So I started playing and this is what happened. I used the same technique to create these little black purses, and this is what they looked like after they were baked. And then I put on a base coat and a top coat of some nail builder gel that I had. And it's actually the same product that I used when I made my pans for my chickens. And I will leave a link in the description for that. But I put on the base coat on each side, and after the base coat was cured, I added a top coat and cured that as well. And at this point I got really excited because it was really looking exactly the way I imagined it. And I was so tickled and amused that just by adding that shiny top coat that my little black clay purses turned into black patent leather, which for me is very nostalgic and precious. Now keep in mind this process took a little bit longer than what's shown in this video because you have to do both sides with the base coat and each side with the top coat and cure them all on each side. But I truly think this was all worth the extra effort. I think these may have to be in a special showcase all their own. I feel like this process has really opened up a whole new window of ideas for the dress shop, and I'm really excited to explore them all. But I won't try to pack them all in this video. Now be advised, this product is not marketed to be used for creating miniatures. It's actually marketed to be used for fingernails. But I had it on hand, the product was old, and I definitely wasn't using it on my fingernails, so I figured I'd use it to enhance my purses. Now if you don't have a UV light and you don't have nail builder gel, I believe this process will work well if you use triple thick glaze or dimensional magic. But here I am putting my gel under the UV light. And I did cure it for 90 seconds on each side. And make sure you use the base coat first for good adhesion. And when it was all done, this was my result. And dolls, I was truly amused by the product of my little experiment. And this is why I encourage you dolls so much to play, because imagination blossoms in the midst of play. And although I'm done with these purses today, you'll definitely see more black patent leather purses. Now, if you enjoyed this video today, let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe, and always look for me on Mondays after 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I sure have enjoyed creating this video for you dolls. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all next time right here on Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.